to talk. Um, yeah, anyway. Yeah, it's amazing the lies the government puts out. Don't ever be astounded with how much they lie. Don't ever underestimate how much they lie. That's the only thing I've come to find true with them. When I first saw some major discrepancies with some logic put out there by the flat earthers, I was totally triggered, on a warpath, and I was going to gobble their lunches. When I approached all the arguments, and I could see that it was very difficult to find the opposing argument prevalent, and this was when YouTube wasn't even censoring this much. Like, I had to go to another source online to find videos that weren't censored and all that kind of stuff, essentially. But yeah, it was a trip. Took me 3 months. I let it stew in my mind. I went down all the arguments before I would even debate anybody, and I found out all the arguments fell flat. It was ridiculous. And I was with my karmic at the time. I think it was just a little after I had my first son, and I told her, I think the earth's flat. She looked at me and kind of wanted to like make fun of me, and she's like, "You're not on about this again." I said, "Oh, I'm willing to debate if you think it's not." And I said I wouldn't. And then she saw how serious I was, and then she conceded the argument right there. Mensa conceding right away because she saw the writing on the wall. She knew I knew my arguments and stuff. I don't just say things rashly, ever. And then, well, anyway, yeah, she said she saw a vision of her getting ousted in the debate, and she didn't want to experience that pain. It's a good pain, though. I mean, it's kind of shocking. Yeah, once you can figure out that all the space stuff is fake, it becomes really easy to reconsider what they're calling this space right here where we live. I mean, everybody looks to the stars, but they don't look on the ground beneath them, or let alone the ocean. I mean, the ocean's vastly uncharted. We can't even explore oceans. How do we explore space? You can't. And people have caught on. In 2016, there was more searches for flat Earth stuff than there was of President Trump and that whole deal. No joke. So don't feel bad about any of it. There's the flat Earth one is the hardest pill to swallow, and you usually had to have already gone down a trail of figuring out the mistruth of all the other stuff like space and all, gravity. I knew of no physicists working using big G or Newtonian gravity. None of the equations. They never factored in. They said, "Oh, it's just such a small, minuscule amount and all this," but no, it's BS. If you're not using it, because I remember seeing them on the chalkboard, write it out in the physics room, and they just had this clever way of writing out the gravity equation of an equation, and they said they were simplifying it. So you're just taking out the gravity constant in the whole equation, essentially. And it's like they didn't know how to connect math with reality at the same time. and I got in arguments with them. I said it also follows the same relationship as electromagnetism. Just by the equation setup, it's the same relationship. So maybe gravity is misunderstood as electromagnetism over a large scale. There's only certain materials that actually have more magnetic ability, and it's due to the electrons traveling through it, like metals. Some metals are more conductive than others. Over a large span, there's metals in the earth, in the ground, and then there's not so magnetic stuff. So the combination of all that seems like gravity to me on a large scale. Not what they call, the magical gravity right now. It's based on density and electromagnetism. Many of the scares, like nuclear bombs, total BS. There's a bunch of pills. You'd spend some years on studying some of the pills I got. But the biggest one's the flat earth. If you can get past that one, all of it is super easy to see. It's like getting the master's degree in conspiracy theory. And we're not talking about just theories. We're talking about actual facts, what we're dealing with. People that don't just want to postulate theories, but actually see what the real truth is and where the lies are. But if you had a flat plane, okay, let's say we had a ball. We lived on a ball. The simple mathematics of it is you got a sphere and you got a curvature like that. You could do cross section of it. And anyways, if there was somebody standing here and there was a city right there, you should, at a certain height, not be able to see past that hump. And from what they tell us of the circumference, the total circumference, it equates to being 7.96 inches per mile square, and it doubles. It doubles every mile. So at a certain distance, you're going to start seeing something disappear under the horizon. The problem is we now have zoom cameras that surpass the technology back then, and they can't fake this curvature that they dictate to us. The amount of space you can see past, how far you can see. The largest construction items that have been done by humans on, from the recent past, like the Panama Canal or the 11-mile bridge in China, none of them factored in 1 inch of curvature. And that would be a huge foobar in any construction content. Like if I miss by a couple inches on these small projects, they're like nothing compared to those big projects. I'd be out money just making small miscalculations like that. You don't do that in engineering. It's not going to work. Anyway, the other thing with the last thing I was caught up on really was just the orbs up in the sky, the way the sun would set. It bothered me, like the moon also. And once you go down those arguments, you start to see it's a matter of perspective. We're looking with a round ball in our eye sockets, and we have limited perspective. There's a point at which everything vanishes already with your perspective. Anyway, when you figure out how deep all the lies in the programming is, it's really a mind twist. You're gonna probably be numb for days and having to reorient all your thoughts that you had hinged on it. And there's a lot. It's It's quite a bit to go through. It's quite uncomfortable. But there's a whole new world that opens up with it. Yeah, sure, people could label you as crazy and all this, but if they don't know they're talking to somebody, it's like a grandmaster in science and physics and really, studies this stuff. They get decimated in the arguments. I'm confident I can talk to anybody that's been in physics, astrophysics, all those different things. I don't need to know or be an expert in any of their respective fields to understand that a lot of it is based on hogwash. Because many people don't look at the premise of the items, and they commit the fallacy to authority, that thinking the authority is always correct, and they're not. They're full of fallacies too. Really, it's just you studying it yourself and understanding it. A lot of it's due to CGI and effects. The space stations are often filmed in a giant pool with a big giant green screen. That's where all the magic happens, underwater. And then they superimpose it with CGI on the videos. And then you'll usually always see bubbles. If you look up the thing with bubbles in space, most of the guys there, they've got bubbles escaping their outfits. They even gotten, in some of the space shots, people with their scuba gear on, hiding in the actual craft. It's just a lot of illusion. Then they have the ones where they got the women with the hairspray making their hair stand up and all those little tricks, and then they're on harnesses, and then sometimes the CGI wigs out and you can see part of their hand disappear, or they're grabbing fake objects that are, supposedly floating around. And they got some videos that are on a time clip where they're filming inside of a plane that does a dive, and it only will last. It'll be the most realistic anti-G floating you'll see, but it only lasts for like, I don't know, like a minute something, or else the plane would probably stall out and crash. So that's another thing. So people have observed these. Also, they've observed like the takeoffs. The public's in such outrage and overcoming this stupid space bullshit. The government cannot reasonably conduct their stuff for billions of dollars they ask from the taxpayers. So they've handed it over to a private entity now because they're getting so much flack from people like me and others that write in constantly and pelt them. And it's just wild anyway. SpaceX, he still gets subsidies from the government. He's to make electric cars and then the space bullshit. You'll even see Elon Musk talk about his car in space. He said, it looks so fake that it looks real. And then everybody laughs like it's an inside joke. These guys know it from that space up. There's people that are inside that community that wave the flag and tell everybody what's up on this big delusion. And then when you look into it, the vast depth of it, it's just insane. It's insane. It's a mental prison. You say, well, why would they want to fake that on such a broad level? Well, it's just simple art of war. If you don't know the lay of the land, you can't wage war. And if you figure out nukes are bullshit, and you look at the vast numbers of people versus the elite, it's not a fair fight. No matter how much technology or bullshit they have, they still have a place they have to live. They still need to, they still need to have a house. They still need water. They still need probably electricity to live and food. And guess what? We're the ones who supply most of this shit through our services and goods. Now, I'm not ever advocating overthrow of government. I just think there should be freedom of speech to point these idiots out. Make them duck, make them hide, make them explain themselves. They won't. They probably won't. They haven't for years. They got everybody going on these aliens, and it's like, well, look at the legal definition of alien. It's somebody from an outer space. Could be a extraterrestrial. That means territories, extra territories in the outer regions. Yeah, there's probably other beings out there, but they're not flying in on saucers. They might be on flying crafts. Yeah, I've seen some weird stuff in the military I can't talk about. And most would call that stuff UFOs when they'd see it flying around. You know, it's a military operated machine. I've seen some of them. Anyway. Also, if you understood the inverse square law, not theory, of light, basically every mile the light travels, it diminishes by half of its efficacy. Meaning most if not all the stars, except for like maybe the planet stars you would ever see in the night sky, due to the distance, you'd never see the light. Never. You could say, well, it's through the vacuum of space. I'm sorry, okay, so you're going to argue a different medium that the light travels through. And even with a different medium, the forces of gravity are supposed to bend light, according to this argument. I mean, look at general relativity with Einstein. He's talking about a star's light bending around the sun. That was a squiggle mark with a freaking photography machine when he was out there in Australia filming to prove his theory. Anyway, it's just bollocks. And you'll find out that the scientists back then, Einstein was one of the dummies as far as geniuses go. Most geniuses nowadays would consider him a dummy. And he sucked at math too. There's guys that challenged him on math and thought he was shit. Not a true genius. Tesla was a true genius. Anyway, hope you have fun with finding out all those theories. The world's going to appear very different to you after you get out of this rabbit hole. So